Metro. 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, January 18th, 3:30 p.m. meeting of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee of the Metropolitan Council. I am detecting 7 members present, which is a quorum, and we will begin. First and foremost, as has become customary, we have Mr. Honeysucker and/or Director Potter to update us on the trash. And I believe you are recognized.
All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the council. John Honeysucker, Assistant Director, Waste Services, along with Director Potter. I think I want to make this very brief today. The exciting news is that as of February the 1st, our curbside recycling will be restored. So I think that's very exciting with the support of our staff at Waste Services, the administration. It's been a daunting task, but that has been the challenge, and we have achieved that hurdle, and we're going to move forward in a positive way. So with that being said, I will open up for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. You may have said it, but did more trucks arrive, or tell me all the pieces that fell into place that made this possible?
Councilor Allen, what we did, we initially had stopped the recycling to assume the trash concerns that were taking place, because fundamentally it was getting into a health and safety concern with the lack of competency for Red River. We've been observing them, put them on a plan over the last month to watch to see if they could actually achieve the task of getting that. And we're pretty much satisfied with where they are, so we pass those routes back. And so that's why we're moving forward with resuming the recycling. And if you all have noticed that a lot of the convenience centers have been inundated quite a bit with excessive amount of recycle, which we've been my staff has been working overtime along with myself. We've been out at night, upwards to 11, 12 o'clock at night at different centers, working to make sure that we clean up, extending the hours of the sites, such as the Granbury location, extending that a little longer to make sure that we can accommodate any excessive overflows.
Anyone? Councilmember Welsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me not as a member of this committee. Mr. Honeysucker, will this mean that we are starting in February for twice-a-month pickup?
No, ma'am. We'll start back to resuming our regular once a month right now. One thing that we following the director's leadership, we want to make sure that we are able to accomplish this task before we go into the other phase, but we're looking forward to doing that very soon.
Thank you.
Any other? Oh, Councilmember Evans.
Thank you for your hard work in getting this restored. I'm in the GSD, and so I have not had the experiences that everybody else has, but I guess one area that I am impacted is the collection sites. So I know, and you may have just said this, and I may have just missed it, but will you continue kind of the additional pickups at those collection sites, like McGavick and Lakewood?
Right. The collection sites, the convenience collection sites will stay as standard. They will still be there. Granbury, the sites, yes, ma'am.
In the kind of transition period, will you continue kind of the additional pickups that you were pursuing until you start to see it go down as far as the amount of?
Absolutely.
Okay,
One of the things we are going to still continuously, I'm working with some of the council members right now. We're still going to have these pop-up sites a couple of times out the month to help with the excessive overflow.
Very good. Thank you.
Excellent, Mr. Honeysucker and Assistant Director Honeysucker and Director Potter. I would ask, I guess maybe, because this is trash-shattering news. Hold your laughter. If you could send an email out to the council, letting kind of with this announcement, and you may already have in the last couple hours, and I haven't checked, but just update everyone so that we know, and we thank y'all for staying on top of it. And next we have a special new face to the Metropolitan government, and that is our new Director of NDOT, Ms. Diana Alarcombe.
Thank you.
And the floor is yours. Welcome to Nashville.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here. My name, again, is Diana Alarcon. I am on day 6, so still be kind to me, but I am getting caught up pretty quickly, and I look forward to working with each and every one of y'all here at the city, at Metro Nashville, excuse me. So
And
thank you.
could you tell us about your lapel pin?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Actually, I have pins, so I am actually in the process of setting up meetings to come and visit with all of y'all. But this is a way to start a great conversation with different folks and the community members about our most vulnerable users of our roads, which are bicycles and pedestrians. So it allows me to have a conversation with the community on a different level, and I get to share the pin with them. So it's a really nice treat, and it works really well. And this will play very well into our initiative as we move forward with our Vision Zero.
Super duper. And I see some of the pins, and thank you for mine.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, committee. This brings us to a very condensed committee meeting with the holiday yesterday. And so let's dispense of several items on consent, as they are mostly housekeeping items. Beginning with resolutions, RS 2022-1342, Allen Young, Toombs, and others, approves an application for let me read through what I have on consent, and then y'all can pull any if required. RS 2022-1342, 1343, 1344, 1345, 1346. Everyone agreeable to those being on consent? Super. And I will read the captions. RS 2022-1342, Allen Young, Toombs, and others approves an application for a flood mitigation assistance grants from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Metro Water and Sewerage Services Department for flood mitigation. RS 2022-1343, Johnston, Allen Young, and others approves an application for a hazard mitigation grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Metro Water and Sewerage Services Department for flood mitigation. 2022-1344, Johnston, Allen, Young, and Swara approves an application for a hazard mitigation grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Metro Water and Sewerage Services Department for flood mitigation. 2022-1345, Hall, Allen, Young, and Swara approves an application for a flood mitigation grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Metro Water and Sewerage Services Department for flood mitigation. And last but not least, 2022-1346, O'Connell, Withers, and Young amends ordinance number BL 2021-803 to authorize the Metro government to abandon existing combination sewer and water mains, combination sewer manholes, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements, relocate a water main, and to accept new combination sewer, sanitary sewer, and water mains, combination sewer manholes, inlets, sanitary sewer manholes, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements, and update map and parcel information for 2 properties now located at 138 12th Avenue North and 1102 Grundy Street, also known as the 1111 Church Street Development. Those are the items on consent. Do I have a motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye, and those opposed. Ladies and gentlemen, the consent agenda passes on a 7-0 vote. That brings us to the main event, the main spectacle this evening. Bills on second reading. BL 2021-961, Johnston, Pulley, Nash, and others. Amends the Metro Code of Laws pertaining to the use of license plate scanner technology in the public rights of ways. Ladies and gentlemen, we have several proposed amendments, some amendments, and a late amendment. Councilmember Johnston, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I guess we can go ahead and talk about the different amendments, and I don't know if you want mine to go first. It was late filed today, but however you want me to do it is fine.
Well, I guess, why don't, for the benefit of us, if our council could kind of explain the posture we're in. Are there amendments currently on the bill that have been re-referred? Because I noticed there's proposed amendment, and then there's amendment, and give us a rundown, if you could.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, there was an amendment that has been incorporated into the bill, and then we have proposed amendment 1, 2, and 3, and then a late amendment that was just sent out, I believe, to the members.
I got you. Okay, thank you. I guess I got thrown off because on here only one of them it said proposed, so I didn't know. It threw me for a second. Thank you. Well, I guess with that said, Councilmember Johnston, if you would like to run through, do we want to do the amendments in order? Let's do that.
That's fine.
All right, well, proposed amendment 1 by Councilmember Benedict. Councilmember Benedict, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for letting me speak here in your committee. So amendment number 1 is regard to signage. Right? So, sorry, I'm having some IT stuff happening while we're getting this ready here. So this really is about making sure that the public understands where these placements are. And I'm actually looking at the amended bill tonight that just came through that we'll talk about in a second. And I think about what these uses are, and it's very similar to other things where we have signs. So we have signs on the that say bait car in area. We have signs that say radar detected in certain areas. And so when I think about assisting in missing person cases, in amber and silver alerts, hey, there's an LPR in use here. Operating a smart parking or curb management system, hey, there's an LPR in use here. Detecting traffic or parking offenses, hey, there's an LPR in use here. Identification of recovery of stolen vehicles and stolen license plate, same thing. Investigating and prosecuting felony offenses and criminal offenses associated with violent crimes, including gun violence, homicide and assault, and reckless driving, including illegal drag racing activity at speeds in excess of 70 miles per hour. Again, these are things where today, when we talk about surveilling our constituents with their tax money, shouldn't we let them know that we're doing that? We do that in so many other areas, and I think that this is another opportunity for us to make sure that if these are affixed, should this bill pass, that we let our residents, our citizens know that these are there in place and they're there for your protection. They're there to make sure that we're capturing this information based on the spirit of this bill. And so I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to let the public know that these signs or these cameras are there. Thank you, Chair.
All right, and actually, shame on me. Do we have, just on the bill, do we have a motion and second? All right, thank you. Do we have anyone who would like to move Councilmember Benedict's Amendment 1? All right, it has been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion on Councilmember Benedict's amendment? We will go back to...
I don't get to talk again now that it's been moved? No, just kidding. Thank you, Chair.
I have a feeling you will get to talk again. Don't worry. Councilmember Johnston, any input on the amendment?
I'm happy to defer to people that are on the committee first, if that's how you'd like to do it, or I can...
Sure. Are there committee members on the amendment? Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a little bit of clarification about where the cameras might be fixed, and then in addition, where the signs might be located, just from a visual clutter and making sure that people are looking at the things on the road they need to be looking at, like stop signs and other cars. Does anybody know the answer to either of those questions? Where the cameras would be located, where the signs would be located, and how big would they be?
Councilmember Benedict, would you like to speak to that?
Gonna have to defer to legal on that question.
Okay. Did y'all hear the question? This is on Councilmember Benedict's Amendment 1 about signage, and Councilmember Allen has inquired as to the placement of said signage. I believe and Councilmember Allen, correct me if I'm wrong. Size and placement of any signage that would be required by the amendment. I don't recall there being that written into the amendment, so
That is not part of the amendment.
If I could, I would imagine certainly from and I would think maybe NDOT could answer in regards to the way that signs are placed, as well as how many. So I'm not sure if NDOT could help to answer that rather than our legal team.
Councilmember Allen.
Yeah, that was my question.
I'm so sorry. My bad.
Good suggestion.
That's strike one.
And then I see a
Councilmember
hand
Benedict.
back there.
Strike two?
Looks like our director, Alec, she's going to dive right into it. Baptized by fire. Come join us.
You're really putting me on the spot today. I don't have a direct answer for you, but I think there are some opportunities that some would actually go on the video camera themselves, especially like in a garage or something, if we're using the LPR system from a parking perspective. And then we would work with the location of the others and use a standard informational sign, which is actually about a 2x3 or 1x2. It's typically the standard signs that we follow the MUTCD. So I don't have a 100% answer, but I would say we will side with the MUTCD on appropriate signage because this is considered informational signage.
All right, thank you, Director. And Councilmember Allen, does that answer your question? All right, I believe Councilmember Evans was next.
Hey, thank you, Chair Young. I think my question kind of about the signage, I guess my only question is we don't have really good intel at this point of how much cameras cost. And so is there any insight maybe from the sponsor about, would there be, I can envision in some parts of my area, where they might be taken down in the night, based on if there's obvious points of signs, where they may be located?
I'm going to take the leeway and say the cost would not be significant for a sign, and to keep in mind that this legislation is not authorizing spending, just putting the policy in place. But Councilmember Benedict, did you have anything to add? Excellent.
And thank you for that. And I was thinking more of the bill sponsor as opposed to the amendment sponsor, but that can be something that we discuss later on. And then the other question that I have is, would the reference is specific to placement of the LPRs, and so this doesn't give us the wiggle room to have signs maybe at the county line around Davidson County, does it? It's only would be affixed kind of where cameras are located.
Councilmember Benedict, what is your, go ahead and impart some wisdom on us.
Thank you. So, and I appreciate that he's working to get me up, so maybe I can vote later or not, so we'll see.
Depends on how you want to vote.
Thank you. Indeed, twice. No. So I think that would be a question, again, for NDOT as far as where placement for signage is.
Well, and not to put words in Councilmember Evans' mouth, I think she is kind of inquiring as to should the signage just be, say, at the county line so drivers know when you enter the county, these are utilized in our county, or is your intent that at every location of a LPR device that there be a sign indicating that an LPR device is in use in that vicinity?
Thank you, Chair, the latter.
All right. Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. And while I have a different opinion about the LPRs, I don't think that, I think that having signage is basically a reminder that is going to help try to deter some of the activity that we have. And it is not only just for the driver, but for those who may be passengers. So when they do drive, or when they decide that they're going to drive and they're going to commit some type of crime, that they will be mindful. And I would imagine that that's kind of the spirit of having some type of signage. I think there are other things that we need to be doing in order to address the real issues here about violence and criminal activity, as opposed to always looking for the police to be the be-all and do-all for these type of things. But anything that we need to add in order to help diffuse it, I think, is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hurt. Councilmember Bradford, but let me interject and remind everyone we're on Amendment 1 out of 3 additional amendments, and technically this committee ends in 5 minutes, which I know it won't, but let's try to be brief.
Thank you. This question is about the amendment itself. You know, in the discussions we've had, we've heard that there are some communities, both neighborhoods and apartment complexes, who utilize LPRs for their protection. This amendment and the bill overall, would it require apartment complexes and private neighborhoods or neighborhoods in general that are utilizing LPRs to also have signage as well? Or is this just for cameras put up by Metro?
You look like you're directing that toward council.
This is just related to cameras by Metro, placed by Metro.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further discussion. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Good. Well, Councilmember Nash.
I guess I'm a little concerned. I'm not necessarily against notifying the public, but when an officer goes out to run radar, they don't put a sign down, the radar gun is on the street. Now, there might be signs around the town that says, speed will be radar enforced, or speed will be aircraft enforced. And I think a sign like that would be much better, so that we're not necessarily telling the crooks where to go around the block so they miss a camera. I think we can do better than this particular amendment. I'll be voting no.
And Councilmember Johnston, you had requested to take us home, so.
Thank you. I just think there's a lot of questions about this that probably need to be answered as far as, you know, are there safety concerns when you add signage to, say, a traffic light where it's combined with the street name and things like that? I don't know if anybody's done, you know, we love to study things. And so I don't know about that. I also think that in a lot of ways it's not necessary. The cameras are not intended to be inconspicuous. Part of everyone that I've seen has a blue light, actually. So part of what makes this tool effective is the deterrent nature of it. So you do see it. We want you to see that, actually. To Councilman Nash's point of being able to avoid it, you know, that's a good point. But the cameras themselves are quite conspicuous. While signs may not be incredibly expensive, it will add a fiscal note to the project. So I just think at this time, I don't know that it's incredibly necessary. I'm not on the committee, so I won't vote right now, but on the floor, I'll vote no. Again, it's not because I don't want to be transparent that we're using cameras. We can shout that from the rooftops. And if there's another way to do it that's maybe a little less ambiguous and less costly, I would be in full support of it. I just think maybe this is not the right way to do it.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Johnston. With that said, all of those in favor of proposed Amendment 1 by Councilmember Benedict indicate, actually, if you would raise your hand, because I think this would be split and it would be easier for me to take the vote. If you are in favor of the proposed Amendment 1, indicate by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3. I see 3 in favor, and if you are opposed, raise your hand. 5. The amendment is not recommended. 3 in favor, 5 against. Now we're on to Amendment 2, once again by Councilmember Benedict. There you are. Benedict. Is there a motion second on the amendment for discussion? All right. Councilmember Benedict, you're recognized.
Thank you again, Chair. Appreciate the opportunity
Remember,
to speak.
you've already have one strike.
All right, I'm going to take one. So, you know, what this resolution is about making sure that we are not taking outside money for any outside influence from any non-governmental organization. So this amendment was originally introduced a few months ago, and when it came up, the question was, whoa, the way that it's written is not that it will allow any grants from a government organization, and that absolutely was not the intent when, at the time that I filed that amendment. What this amendment does is it says that we won't accept any donation of any LPR device, any LPR service, or any donation of funds for the purchase of any of those things, although it doesn't limit us from receiving grants from governmental organizations. So I think that there's concern about this relative to the city having taken private donations for things like tonight. We'll actually pass one. Basically, I think Friends of one of the parks in the city is going to help us build sidewalks or something to that effect. And we absolutely take NGO money for those types of things. I don't, and I'd like to, if you would, Chair, be interested in hearing from the administration or the police department potentially about any outside donations that they receive for any equipment or services that they have. I'd just be curious. I don't know the answer to that. So I would appreciate if you choose to ask that, that'd be great. However, what I'm most concerned about is anybody having outside influence. Not long ago, we shot down something that would have allowed a private corporation to bring an employee in and pay for that employee, even though that employee would be a Metro employee. I think it's important that with taxpayer dollars, we're looking at how we're spending them, and that if we're going to spend money to help fight crime, we need to make sure that we're using taxpayer dollars correctly. I did speak with the sponsor of the other amendment, and I was interested in a compromise, and that was not the appetite on the other end. So with that, I'm planning to move this amendment and on the floor, and I appreciate your consideration in this committee. Thank you, Chair.
All right. I actually have a question for Ms. Darby. Would we not if a donation were made, regardless of this amendment, we would already have to, as a council, vote to accept that donation. Is that not correct?
You would need to vote to accept the donation unless the entity accepting the donation already had prior authority to accept.
Right. So in this circumstance, the Metro government or the MNPD to accept a donation of an LPR or money to go towards an LPR, that would come before this council as a vote, correct?
It would, like I said, unless there was some other authority for MNPD to accept a donation. So if there was another ordinance that allowed MNPD to accept donations without coming to the council, then yes.
And is there an ordinance to that effect?
I don't know of one, not on this particular issue, and I believe that MNPD does bring their donations to the council. So I don't think they have a blanket authority to accept donations.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans, you're recognized.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Kind of piggybacking on your question just now, is there, and I'm not in finance, so I don't know the answer to this, but is there not a threshold, like if it's under a certain dollar amount of grant, where it would have to come to us versus over that dollar amount?
About $5,000.
$5,000. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We lost something in communications because I think at the end of our conversation about a particular compromise, I finally folded. In the spirit of
You got to know when to hold them, Councilmember Nash, and know when to hold them.
yes, well, I thought I had folded, and apparently Council Lady Benedict left without the impression. I also have an amendment that speaks to this very issue, and it says that any donation of any amount of money coming from a private entity and coming to the police department would have to come to council. So the compromise was to ask that we not implement that at least until after the 6 months trial period. I'm willing to do that. So I'm not sure where Council Lady Benedict wants to go now. If she wants to run hers, I will vote no, and I'll vote yes on mine. If we want to do the compromise, we can do that.
You could flip a coin. Councilmember Benedict, on your amendment.
Thank you, Chair. And so and thank you, Councilmember Nash, for that. I did approach you and say, could we find something here? And I appreciate that you're willing to compromise on this. I did speak with Ms. Zeitlin, after we spoke just a few minutes ago, and it sounds like it may be something that can be done. I guess I want to make sure we're in the middle of the committee meetings, and then we've got the council meeting, and so it's going to be a new amendment that would be a late filed amendment, suspension of the rules. So she and I discussed that, and my apologies for not having brought that up sooner during this discussion, but if she could help explain, Chair, I absolutely am open to that compromise if the legal department could achieve that.
Ms. Zeitlin, your name has been invoked.
So the only difficulty is getting that language in front of the council. So that's the practical difficulty between now and 6:30, is that we do have committees up until the council meeting begins. So we could work on that language, or it could be potentially offered as some sort of verbal amendment on the floor and then taken down later. But the difficulty at this point is to draft that language and get the exact language before the council.
All right, Councilmember Johnston, because I think I saw a smile behind the mask.
I'm smiling, yes. So, you know, these two amendments sort of speak to each other. One, I think, was in response to the original amendment. You know, personally, I don't necessarily think it's needed. I think we've got a really good process in place where all donations over $5,000 are accepted or not accepted by the council. We certainly want to be transparent. I don't foresee donations coming in at a lesser amount just because the cost of this technology is greater than that. That's like me coming in with a $5 bill to renovate the room. You know, I mean, it's just, do we need a renovation? You're looking at me weird.
On the amendment, Councilmember Johnson.
Sorry. I just don't think that it's necessary. I do appreciate the spirit of compromise, and I think that what they came up with, I think, is agreeable to everyone, so I'm hoping that we can get that done, whether it's verbal or magic, law, writing. I'm in favor of that. Thanks.
All right. Any further committee questions, comment? Ms. Benedict, or Councilmember Benedict, I hope it's very persuasive.
Thank you, Chair. I would ask that a member of the committee listen to Ms. Zeitlin's advice in regards to what to do about procedurally this amendment and the other amendment pending a suspension or whatever may happen on the floor about a new amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Ms. Zeitlin.
So I would recommend, if you plan on offering a late amendment tonight, one for this bill has already been circulated, but attend the Rules Committee, explain the emergency nature of the amendment to the Rules Committee, ask for their approval, and then suspend the rules on the floor tonight with that language. And if we can go ahead and get the language, it doesn't, you know, together, we can try to do that.
All right. At this point, we need to move things along. We are impeding on Councilmember Allen's committee. The Amendment 2 offered by Councilmember Benedict. All of those in favor indicate by raising your hand. I see. All right. If you are in, I'm taking the vote on Councilmember Benedict's Amendment 2. All those in favor, if they would raise their hand. I see 1. And all of those opposed to Councilmember Benedict's Amendment 2, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Councilmember Gamble, are you going to vote? You're going to abstain. Okay. Understood. Hold on, my math isn't adding up. Sorry. Allen not voting, and then Councilmember Swope, which way are we? Okay. Right. Let's do this again to make sure well, actually, what? Okay, that's what I got. All right. The amendment is not recommended with 1 in favor, 5 against, and 2 not voting or abstaining. All right. Councilmember Nash, that brings us to you for Amendment 3. But quickly, committee members, I'll remind you, if we can try and boot, scoot, and boogie so as not to further delay the rest of the night. Councilmember Nash, you are recognized for Amendment 3. Oh, right, I need to turn your mic on. I apologize.
Donation, the amendment reads, a donation of any LPR device, any LPR service, or any donation of funds for the purchase of any LPR device, or LPR service shall be subject to the approval of the Metropolitan Council by resolution, regardless of the value of the donation, which I think hopefully answers some of that issue. Again, I'm willing to compromise and put that off until after the 6 months period, so that we're not muddying up the waters any more than they're already been muddied over the past year and a half. So that's where we are right now.
Could you clarify the 6-month period? Are you saying that is or is not part of your amendment?
Well, it's not part of the amendment. I'm willing to make that compromise, as we discussed.
Okay, all right. Well, is there a motion on the amendment? I would assume Councilmember Nash would. I'm sorry, Mr. Swope? All right, there's been a motion to table Amendment 3. However, okay, is there a second to the motion to table? Councilmember Evans seconds it. All right, well, on a motion to table, this is interesting. Buckle up, boys and girls. Well, unbuckle. A motion to table is not a proper motion in committee, I have been told. So, sorry for the false alarm. In that case, on Amendment 3 by Councilmember Nash, is there any committee discussion or questions? I'll go to Councilmember Gamble, sorry, I didn't mean that with a question mark at the end.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, with this amendment, it would require that any donation, whether it's government or private entity, any donation would have to come before the council. Just wondering how that's different from the rule that we already have with donations of $5,000 or more having to come before the council.
Ms. Darby or Ms. Nyland?
Well, if the donation is under $5,000, then it would still be required to come to the council.
Okay, so that's the only difference with this. Okay, so, and that would include in-kind as well.
Would it include in-kind donations?
Yes,
Okay.
if the value is under $5,000.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gamble. Anyone else?
This originated because there were some emails going around claiming that there was some nefarious business group here in town, and they did such nefarious things as provide a luncheon for some of the police officers over at the South Precinct one evening. Terrible stuff. But somehow that there was going to be secret money coming from somewhere. So to get over that, I don't think we should be feeding the alligators of these kind of conspiracy theories. But to address it, I want to make sure that we would be open about it, and a donation of any value would come before us.
Councilmember Evans on the amendment.
Thank you. As far as the amendment is concerned, I wish we could table it. I will say that in response to Councilman Nash's comment about nefarious groups, the reason why there's that conversation is because the website is not transparent, doesn't list board members, any of those details.
All right, Councilmember Evans, we are on the amendment.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We will take a vote now on Amendment 3 offered by Councilmember Nash. All in favor indicate by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. I count 5. Those opposed, 1, 2, 3. And I believe that is everyone. No one is abstaining on that one. All right. Amendment 3 is recommended, 5 in favor, 3 against. And I believe, Councilmember Johnston, you have a late amendment to offer this committee. Give us, or do we have a motion? Or, well, actually, since it's late, we've just now seeing it, so I'll let you give us a quick rundown, and we'll see if we can get a motion on it. After I turn your microphone on. I apologize. I'm getting used to this room as opposed to committee room. You're recognized.
Thank you. So on Friday, we had a committee of 6 council members to discuss this issue, hoping to come to a compromise between the 2 bills. We really did not make much progress, except for one thing that came out that people objected to was the language that said parking and traffic offenses. When I originally drafted the ordinance, one of the things that NDOT was interested in doing was parking enforcement. And that was the language that came from them was parking, or not NDOT, but Metro Legal. So parking and traffic offenses, and specifically civil parking and traffic offenses. I never really understood that. I just thought that was part of what it was, but it has been brought up as a concern that possibly LPRs would be used to enforce running a red light, for example, or other type of traffic offenses. That was never the intention, ever. It was always just about the parking enforcement. And so because of that, and it's obviously late, so that's the late filed nature of it, I want to address that concern. And so this amendment, if you read the text, is a little bit long, but really all it does is delete the word traffic 5 times. And so that's all it does is to clear, it really is clarification. And so it's more clerical, but I guess could be substantive, but I wanted to just completely get rid of that concern.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Johnston. Is there a motion on the amendments? All right. Any questions? I doubt there could be. It seems rather straightforward. However, never underestimate this committee. All right, is there any interest in discussion? I see none. All of those in favor of the late amendment by Councilmember Johnston indicate by raising your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I count 9. And those opposed? All right. And anyone abstaining? No. All right. Looks like we gained someone between. All right. That brings us to the bill as amended of sorts. There will be plenty of time to discuss it on the floor later, so I would encourage us to withhold any long-standing oratories so we can proceed with the rest of the committee meetings tonight. Any questions or further comment on the bill overall? Spectacular. We are now voting on BL 2021-961 as amended. All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those opposed? 1, 2. Anyone abstaining? All right. The bill as amended is recommended. 8 in favor, 2 against, 0 abstaining. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your patience. Councilmember Allen, I apologize that we have gone over, but this committee is adjourned. Stay tuned for Budget and Finance.